What is your this I'm out moment? A couple of months ago I was at Oak Point Park in Dallas, Texas late evening, and I thought I heard a kitty meowing in the woods, so I went into the woods to find it just in case it was someone's pet. I got pretty close to where the sound was originating from and it stopped. I waited a couple of minutes and didn't hear anything, and then I took a piss and was about to head back. While I was draining the lizard, I got a really horrible feeling, and I noticed out of my peripheral vision some figure watching me from about 20 feet away in a clearing of dead fallen trees. I turned towards him, and in the dim light I noticed he was at least half naked and very disheveled. He then meowed at me, and I took off still pissing the opposite direction. Had been telling my boss that there was an error on the website that I cannot fix because I don't have the permissions. I mentioned this several times to him. It would take him one phone call to get it straightened out. BTW. The owner notices this error, not only calls me out in front of the whole department about not caring about my job and taking advantage of his kindness, but also makes it a point to tell me I should thank my boss for having my back. It was the last straw placed on a huge pile of awfulness. I quit the next day. I teach special needs. Severely autistic dude in his 20s who was super strong, and we suspected he had schizophrenia too. Nonverbal, severely violent, the whole nine. He was 2:1, 2 staff dedicated to him, which is pretty much unheard of. He needed to be in a locked placement, but that's another story. I broke my aid for lunch and go sit in the room. I see him in the corner of the classroom and I see he's taking a in his diaper. No big deal. I had a protocol. Shoes and socks off, and walked to the bathroom with a pocket full of gloves. We got to the bathroom, and I clear all my pockets, and take off my glasses. I take off his shirt, and it's on. I managed to get his pants and diaper off. Then he decides to run in the stall and paint the stall and himself in fecal matter, all while trying to attack me and the other aide. My aide was gagging. I told him to step out, get my Vicks Vapo Rub under the nose, and in the nose will save any of those working in the population, a box of gloves, a bunch of trash bags, and a bunch of baby wipes. I spent the next 40 minutes washing fecal matter off of a very hairy 20-year-old who was trying to hit and bite me. Luckily he listened to me enough to grab to the top of the stall. Most of the time, I went through 3 things of wipes and a box of gloves. I got him in a fresh diaper and fresh clothes. Told the aides I was done, and went back to class. I told the aides there I was no longer there. The buses would be there soon. I'm not helping anyone, because I'm not here. I got home, stripped in the entryway, and took a 40-minute hot shower. Then had a few beers and a bowl in complete silence on the patio. Friend, 24F, asked for my 23F, help to move to a new flat, and promised a nice dinner as payment. I drove the car she had borrowed, lifted all the heavy stuff, helped her until way after dark. She made dinner, which turned out to be $1 canned tomato soup. When time came to return the car, she left me to drive alone for 40 minutes, return the car to people I didn't know, and with no return transport in the middle of the night. My dad picked me up, and I never talked to my friend again. My friends and I were down in Miami for spring break one year and we wandered into a sort of part of town and were walking around after getting hammered, and we came across an old homeless African American dude named Linwood who was messing with the chain on his bike because it got messed up. We started chatting with him, and he's clearly a bit on the odd side, but also really cool, and we agree to follow him to a local bar for some fun. So we get to the bar and it's one of those little places that somehow crammed 8 or 10 pool tables in, so it's just everyone playing pool and slamming beers. Linwood kind of sucks at pool at first, and we start messing around playing for money with random guys, only like $5 for the next beer etc. Linwood bets a guy and loses, but has no money, so when he loses to this guy I offered to pay the $5 for him, and he was grateful, but then Linwood looks at me and winks and offers for a rematch for $100, which of course the guy takes. And I'm thinking what the, but I'm hammered. Turns out Linwood is good at pool, like really good at pool, and he's a hustler. He smashed this guy and split the $100 with me and then told us to follow him because he had to buy some. So we leave the bar and follow him down this shady, dark road and up these stairs into an apartment, and everybody there is just staring at us because they knew we weren't from around there. Lynn would buy some. And then we go out back and he asks us if we want to get some women, and we say sure. He tells us to hang on and he goes back up into the apartment and comes back down with 3 of the biggest ugliest women I've ever seen and says they'll blow all 3 of you for that $50 you got. And that is where got too weird, and I told Linwood our adventure was over and we needed to get back to our hotel lol. When a coworker violently punched a dent into a freezer when I told him to shut up after months of him harassing me, and I was reprimanded. The director got a nice report after that and he was fired 2 weeks later. Worked at a residential care facility and was doing in-home care for 2 adult men with mental disabilities. The one gentleman was average, agreeable and generally just fine to work with. He ended up doing really well with me, and I was tasked with things like grocery shopping, cooking and errands with him because he would actually stick to the plan and wouldn't cause a fuss. His roommate was the complete opposite. Total mama's boy who had clearly been able to do whatever he wanted his whole life. Blew his budgeted grocery money on pop and other frivolous items. It's cool, mom will be over shortly with a check for more. I understand they had the means and it was their choice, but the whole point of the living situation was to learn independence and how to lead as normal a life as possible. On to the point where I said, I'm out. His mom bought him a blow up doll. Everybody has needs, I understand, but he named it after me and would take it into the shower with him yelling my name the entire time. He was capable enough, so I never went into the bathroom, but I knew what he was doing. I had a discussion with his mom and program directors about trying to redirect this behavior because I didn't feel it was healthy. I was told by his mother that my name was common and there's no way to be sure it was me he was referring to. Then he starts getting irrationally angry with me because I won't be his girlfriend / respond when he's participating in these activities. I bring it up again and it's swept under the rug. On what would be my final day working with him, he tried to pin me in a corner and kiss me. He's much larger and much stronger than I am. His roommate sees and is able to talk him down by threatening to ruin one of his games if he didn't stop. He then threw a DVD case at me, hit me square in the eye and I ended up with a black eye. Called my boss, said I was out and would not be returning as they clearly didn't listen to my safety concerns. Felt bad that his roommate still had to live with him and thanked him profusely for stepping in, though. I once took a job as a grain hauling trucker. Unfortunately I picked the worst time of year to do it, which was December when everyone is trying to get their harvest into the terminal before year end. This December was also a cold one. I live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and it was -30°C to -40°C for most of the 3 weeks this job lasted. The Peterbilt they had me in could throw little enough heat that I could feel my feet or see through the windshield, but not both. My last run went as follows. Dispatch gave me directions that took me an extra 3 hours to get where I was going. In addition to it being a much longer route, they sent me down a dead-end road with a Super B trailer, 2 medium 2 long trailers instead of 1 long one, and I had to drive into a snow-filled field to turn around because my other option was to back to connected trailers up 8 kilometers. I've never sworn so much in my life as I barely managed to not be stuck in a field in the middle of nowhere. When I finally did get to the terminal to unload, it was so late that I was the next semi in line when they closed. I was actively fighting sleep due to being cold all day and pulling a crazy long drive and being more than a bit angry. I had to drop trailer and come back the next day. All told I put in over 14 hours for what should have been an 8-hour haul. We got paid by the loaded kilometers, not by our or total kilometers, so I got paid for 4 hours. I realized that right when the terminal closed. That was the point at which I actually voiced this, I'm out. Despite having nobody to hear me, just an affirmation to myself. The next morning I told them I wasn't returning to work and that I have no problem putting in 14 hours, but not if I'm getting paid for 4 and not in a vehicle that won't throw heat to the cab when it's -40 outside. I've since become an RN. I'm much happier, especially since I get paid for the hours I put in. Went to a friend's birthday party at his favorite club. found out he'd not only invited my abusive ex, but also paid for her train ticket to come up and see him. One of my good friends let me know that she was there, and the friend I rode with was like, nope, we're out, and we went back home. I got denied a 2 or 3% merit increase, cost of living / inflation increase at my company despite them being a leader in the market and making money hand over fist. I was in a meeting with my boss's boss and he got an email about the merit increase for one of my peers. He was already making about 75% more money than I was and got an increase. I immediately changed my status on LinkedIn and started getting bombarded with opportunities. I start a new job on January 2nd.